is over, and the Chiefs' kingdom has firmly planted its flag on top of football's highest summit.
Here's Purdy, looking, firing end zone, caught! Ayuk, touchdown!
Chiefs moving for the second time in as many drives against this #1 defense in the league.
I think that if the Niners have to play anything other than the exact script Kyle Shanahan wrote out, the quarterback will melt.
The team is crumbling before our very eyes.
And you can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're going to have to deal with the Chiefs being the AFC champions for the 4th time in 5 seasons.
And there it is! The 49ers are going to the Super Bowl!
In today's video, we are going to talk about this matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. But before we get into that, make sure that you subscribe, comment, like, tell me what you like about the video. I already know that you're going to tell me if you dislike the video because that's what everyone does. But be sure to at least say something and subscribe and like the video. All of those things. Do that now before we get started. It is Super Bowl 58. It is a rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. All right, so Brock Purdy versus this Kansas City defense is going to be the most interesting story, I think, throughout the course of the game. Let's just cut right to the chase. Brock Purdy hasn't played great the last couple of weeks. In the 2 playoff games that he has played in, Brock Purdy has faced the 17th best defense in the Green Bay Packers, followed by the 19th best defense in the Detroit Lions. There has not been many people this season that has talked about the Detroit Lions secondary and said favorable things about the unit. But in those 2 games, Brock Purdy hasn't played particularly well. Obviously, he needed a last-minute drive to win the game against the Green Bay Packers. And last week, they got down. Credit where credit is due. He was able to come back and win the game and made some timely runs with his feet. But look at the passer rating. Brock Purdy against the Green Bay Packers had an 86.7 passer rating. He followed that up in the NFC Championship game against the 19th best defense in the NFL with an 89 passer rating. Missed throws constantly in both games. And if it wasn't for late heroics, I think that we would be talking about Brock Purdy in a much different light than what we are currently. Now, this Kansas City defense is for real. This is the best defense that the Kansas City has had in the Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid era. And look what they've done this postseason. They held Tua to a 63.9 passer rating, and yes, I understand it was the cold, so yes, take that with a grain of salt. I get it. But 63.9 passer rating was not very good. They then held Josh Allen, who had been playing incredible over a 6 to 7 week period to get them into the playoffs and get them into the divisional round, and they held Josh Allen to 86.1 passer rating. He was missing balls. There was pressure getting after him. And if it wasn't for his escapability, it could have been worse. They then follow that up versus the MVP. What did they do? They held him to 75.5 in the passer rating department. So let's get this straight. The Kansas City defense held Tua to 63.9, Josh Allen to 81.1, and Lamar Jackson to 75.5. I think that most people would agree, at least, that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are better quarterbacks than Brock Purdy. You can maybe make an argument that Brock is better than Tua, I guess, but those two are pretty comparable, I think. And that's what the Kansas City defense did. One thing that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo brought up in the broadcast in that AFC title game was actually the amount of times that Kansas City backs the ball down. They're really good at the defensive linemen disengaging and getting their hands up and batting balls down at the line of scrimmage. And for an offense that really likes to get Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk short passes, get them out in space at the line of scrimmage, I think that that could become a big factor in this game. If Kansas City is able to get 2 or 3 batted balls at the line of scrimmage and get Brock Purdy off of a rhythm throwing the ball, I think that is going to be vital for this Kansas City team. We know that the back end can play lockdown defense. McDuffie has been incredible all season. Ladarius Sneed has played extremely well this year. And so if you can get batted balls down at line of scrimmage and avoid getting some of those quick screens to Deebo Samuel that end up breaking for 30 yards, if you can eliminate some of those, I think that this Kansas City team is going to feel really good about that. All right, so let's flip it over to the other side. Patrick Mahomes versus the San Francisco defense. Now, I do think the San Francisco defense is really good. However, we have seen teams be able to gash them deep, which I know Kansas City hasn't been able to do this season. They don't have the deep threat, and Patrick Mahomes has kind of lived with the dink and dunk method over the course of the season because he hasn't trusted his receivers to go down and make a catch. But I think that they can probably find some success with Travis Kelce over the middle in that secondary. But let's just talk about what Mahomes has done in this postseason leading up to this game. They have played on the road twice in Buffalo. That was the big thing, right? Patrick Mahomes hasn't played on the road. What is he going to be able to do? Well, he goes into Buffalo in the frigid cold, has a 131.6 passer rating against Buffalo. Has an incredible game against a Buffalo team that was 9th in defense this year. Now, granted, Buffalo was dealing with some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but it's a defensive head coach, a defensive culture. That's what this Buffalo team has built themselves on the last couple of years. Good defensive play, and Josh Allen try to make a play on offense to see if we can win games. That's been the Buffalo Bills model the last couple of seasons. And so this defense is well coached with Sean McDermott. And even though they were missing some key players, 131.6 passer rating is insane. He followed that up by going on the road to Baltimore, to a city in a town that Taylor Lewan and Derrick Henry of the Titans said that was the toughest place that they have ever played in the playoffs. In Baltimore, Patrick Mahomes goes in, starts the game 13 for 13, leads the Chiefs on 2 touchdown drives. Yes, the Baltimore defense came to play in the second half, and there was no points scored, and it was the defense that kind of led them to that championship win. But Patrick Mahomes still had a 100.5 passer rating against the number 1 defense in the NFL this season. The Baltimore Ravens were one of the top defenses with the Jets and the Browns. This team made Brock Purdy throw 4 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes started the game 13 for 13, led him on 2 touchdown drives. I think when it comes to quarterback versus defense, the Chiefs have the edge. Another thing that I think is really important here is that experience matters. This Kansas City Chiefs team, all the players on this team obviously won a Super Bowl last year. They came back from a deficit in the Super Bowl last year. They know that they're capable of doing it, and they've done it before. I think that that is important. Although the 49ers have been to a Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, a lot of these players have been to the Super Bowl and have played in a Super Bowl. There are 2 notable exceptions. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey has never played in a Super Bowl, and I don't think that it's going to bother him that much. Like, Christian McCaffrey is as steady as a player that you can get. I don't think that there's a ton of ups and downs. He doesn't have bad games. He maybe just doesn't have as productive games. He never has bad games. The one thing is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's never played in a big game like this. He never played in college football championships or a playoff game or even a Big 12 championship game. Brock Purdy is the big exception. He's played in a divisional round against the Cowboys, won, but did anybody really think the Cowboys were going to win that? Probably not. gets hurt against Philadelphia on the road in the NFC Championship game, and then he has 2 games where he doesn't play great in the divisional round in the NFC Championship game this year, both at home. This is going to be a big moment for Brock Purdy. This is like nothing he has seen before. The media days, everything surrounding the Super Bowl, where you have these meet and greets, you have this WWE style press conferences with the other teams where fans are booing and cheering. You don't have this, and I don't think anything can prepare you for that. And I'm going to be honest, there were times that Brock Purdy did kind of looked a little overwhelmed with it all during the media days. It's nothing like any of the other weeks of preparation that you have. It's completely different. The environment's different. You're on the road for a lot longer than you are, even if you just are flying across country. Family members are begging you for tickets. You're trying to figure out expenses. You're trying to figure out where people can stay. There's a lot that goes into this. And I think experience at the most important position in football is really going to matter. All right, so what's the tail of the tape? Passing game, I'm going to give the edge to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know that maybe on paper this season it hasn't looked like that, but when you have Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, I think that you pretty much by default should win this category. I'm giving it to the Chiefs. I'm going to give the run game to the San Francisco 49ers. They have the best running back in football in Christian McCaffrey. They also have maybe the best chess piece in the NFL with Deebo Samuel, where you can line him up in the backfield or out wide. You have a great fullback. So I'm going to give the edge to the San Francisco 49ers when it comes to the run game. Defensively, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that this team has peaked at the right time. They have been playing incredible football over the last couple of weeks. They're like 3rd in points allowed this season. And I think that Steve Spagnuolo has been here before, understands what needs to be done. And I just think he's a great coordinator. I think gives the Chiefs the edge. Head coach, I guess I'm going to give this a tie. And I'm sure that that's probably a cop-out and some of you are going to be mad at me. But these two are offensive geniuses. I think both have some struggles. I think Kyle kind of gets attached to his script a little bit too much, doesn't want to veer away from the plan because he was the one that crafted the plan in the first place. I think Andy Reid just by default likes throwing the ball and doesn't want to run a ton. And even though sometimes the running game is going, likes to throw the ball around. So both of these guys are incredible offensive coaches that I do think has some type of faults, even though I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think these are 2 of the top 5 coaches in the league, if not top 3 coaches in the league. So I'm going to give this a push on the coaches. All right, so if you haven't noticed already, you probably know who I'm going to pick for the Super Bowl. I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs plus the points. I think the Chiefs win this game. I don't think Brock Purdy has played well. I think that he might be a little bit in his head. I think this Chiefs defense and Steve Spagnuolo are going to get after Brock Purdy and confuse him a lot at the line of scrimmage with the blitz packages, what they're going to do. They break tendencies a lot. I think this Kansas City defense is going to overwhelm Brock Purdy. And I honestly think that it could just come down to that. Brock Purdy making a couple of mistakes and the Chiefs are going to capitalize. Feels like a lot of people are now on the Chiefs, and I'm one of them. Give me Kansas City in the points. All right, let me know, who do you think is going to win Super Bowl 58? Leave a comment down below in the comment section, and be sure to subscribe. We'll have our next video coming out soon. Peace.